Hi guys, welcome back to the Astro Imaging channel. Tonight's session is on animating astrophotos and making stereoscopic pairs of astrophotos. So if you have pretty much a finished image and you have, well, you haven't had clear skies and as long as you can remember, well, here's something you could do with your image. Just to, oh yeah, and of course, before we go into that, there's no image of the week this week, but I do want to congratulate Bill McLaughlin. Bill, I just sent out a invite to you. If you do pop in, you're welcome to talk about your image, probably towards the end of the session. But Bill, if you're watching, keep your eyes out open for that. So yeah, jumping back. So I'm gonna show you my animation. If you saw it in the description, I do basically an animation. And we have Dylan O'Donnell, who's here from Australia. It's morning in Australia. And Dylan's going to share his stereoscopic pairs. And you probably saw it pop through the feed. I don't know if you've ever spent your days cross-eyed in the mall. You probably know what I'm talking about. But if not, then you're in for some excitement. But I'm going to jump right into mine. I have a lot to cover. You guys are always welcome to ask your questions, but I really am going to kind of fly through a lot of this stuff. I'm going to hope to talk and keep it all concise, and hopefully you're going to pick up a lot of what I do. I may not be able to explain everything, but ask your questions. We have people in the room who will call them out. Q&A is active. That's where you ask. And I'm going to jump right in and share my screen and tell you guys what we're talking about today. So there I am. I'm shared full screen, and this is my Photoshop screen. Note number one to tell you, what I am going to show you right here, you need to have Photoshop CC or possibly CS6. I'm not 100% sure on it. I know you can do it with CC. We're discussing it. I'm going to try and find out in the meantime whether you can do it on CS6. But there are, but if you don't have CC or CS6, there is something else you can do that's pretty cool. May not be quite as cool as this, but it's pretty cool. But basically, here's what we're doing. So I had a finished image. The reason I have this horizontal and cropped like that is because I made it 1080p. What is it, 1920 by 1080, and so it would present well on a TV or on a monitor. And this is basically what I've got. I press play. Oh my goodness, I had pre-rendered this and now for some reason it's not rendered. I'm going to have to cheat. I will explain what I'm doing later. Now I'm rendering it. It's going to render slowly. It's kind of actively rendering it. And you notice that the stars are coming forward towards us. So basically this is a fly-through animation of IC 1396. You'll notice this star right here is moving faster than this star right here. So it's given the perception that this star is closer. At the same time, all right, there we go, we're fully rendered. At the same time, you'll notice this nebula is floating off the background, giving a further 3D effect. Now, to do this, I have to separate a lot of different things into layers. I've separated my stars into 2 layers, and I've taken my nebula off into one additional layer. That's what I call my foreground nebula. You can do this in unlimited layers. In fact, if you want to maintain scientific integrity, you could probably even try and compute the distances from the stars or the distances to the stars, find out which stars are illuminating nebula, and remove those stars separately. Or keep them in a different layer. And I'm going to go because you kind of have to think about stuff differently. We're not astrophotographers here. We're actually videographers. But I am going to show you exactly how to do this. So to start, first of all, I am going to jump back and forth from Photoshop to PixInsight. There are ways to do this almost entirely in Photoshop. And I'll kind of point you back to a few things, including Josh Smith's star removal tutorial, and you can find that on our website or on our YouTube page. Because what we have to do is remove stars. I'm going to start right there, and I'm going to because he did it in Photoshop, and people were interested in seeing how I remove stars in PixInsight. I'm going to show you how I do it in PixInsight. But again, it does take some jumping back and forth. That's basically all the prefacing I'm going to do, and I'm going to try and bang this thing out. Okay, step number 1, I'm removing the stars. I need a star mask. Most important thing when you're removing the stars in PixInsight is to get a good star mask. I had made a star mask in advance. Because it's an already stretched image, my noise threshold is in the 0.5 range. Usually with a stretched image, I go to 0.4 and then work around there. To get all the stars that I wanted, I needed to move my scale up to 7. At 5, I just wasn't picking up these larger scale stars. When I moved my scale up to 7, then I was able to pick up nearly every star. Now, I did not, well, you'll see this in a second. I'm going to run this process, and basically what I'm doing is I'm building the star mask. I said you have to be really, I said your star mask has to be really good. It does, but you have to remove the obvious stars. For very, very small stars, it's actually not that important, and especially when you're doing an animation like this. It doesn't take away from the animation if there are stars in the background nebula image. It actually may add to it in a few senses. And I see my mask is almost done here. So basically, I'm just waiting for that. I know this mask is going to be perfect, but normally you'd be going through and refining your mask. There we go. I can minimize that. I can actually close that. I've got my star mask here. Let me show you what I mean about a good mask. I have applied that mask to this image, and I am going to show the mask. I am going to invert the mask so you can see my stars are well protected. You barely see any stars there. When I zoom in, you see a lot of small stars. But again, as I said before, for the non-obvious stars, this isn't so important. We're going to be resampling this a few times for video. Remember, your TV is only 1080p, well, 4K if you're lucky, but for the most part, we're not going to be doing this in 4K. You could, actually, but it'll take a lot longer. So I've got my stars nicely covered there. I am going to invert this mask again because I want to protect everything but the stars. Then I'm going to hide the mask so I can see what I'm doing. And I am going to go right over to morphological transformation. This tool is magic. The default setting on morphological transformation looks like this. What I end up doing is I've set it on 9 elements and a circular structuring element, and basically I just throw that at the image, and you will see, wow, that really muted the stars. Well, you know what? I'm just going to throw it at the image again. I could do 2 iterations here, but I do like, what the heck? Oh no, this isn't happening to me. Oh, why does this happen? Okay, what is going on here? This happened to me the other day, and I don't know what caused it. Let me try minimizing that and opening it back up.
You did have a low disk space error before. I'm not sure if that's related.
Nah, that's not it. Well, let's see if I can do it this way. There we go. All right, that's trying to think of the ramifications of not being able to drag the process icon in the future, but I will think on the fly. So you see I applied another one, and it's removing the stars nicely. Could go back and go back. See, it's really taking them out of there. I should have mentioned this before. Create a folder. First, save your image with stars in it, and then when you remove the stars from this image, which, oh my goodness, I just did that again? Okay, oh well. Going through, removing the stars. I have done, this is my second process on this. Let's see what a third one does. I don't know if I'm going to need the third one, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, actually, I think the third one helped. So here we go. This is my starless image with some residue. And when I say residue, I'm not talking about all those teeny stars in there. What I'm actually talking about is that bright star residue there, this bright star residue here, and what I end up doing, I end up saving. Oh boy, yeah, I just saved instead of saved as. Wow. I went to the bar with my wife for Valentine's Day, and I decided not to drink, and I'm still messing up as if I was drinking. Let's see here. I just want to save this because that's what I really needed to have. I have already done this. So you saw what I did was I basically just threw a morphological transformation at it, and what I end up getting eventually is this image right here. So you will see this is basically my image with that residue right there. And how do we get rid of that residue? We're going to clone stamp it right out. And if you don't know how to use clone stamp, you hold Alt, and that's basically what you're cloning from. Then you just put it on top. You might end up changing the size of your brushes. You might end up doing a few things to kind of get it, just to hide the stuff. But basically you want to get rid of all those residuals. I'm not going to pay really close attention to how good it's going to look. I will tell you this. Video is much more forgiving than photography. You just don't notice the little defects. And I really noticed that when I was creating this. There you go. So it's all cloned out. If I was doing this for final presentation or for the Discovery Channel, then I'd keep going. But it's not. It's pretty much just for me. So basically there, I have my starless image. What I would end up doing now is I would save this off, and this is where I'm going to jump back to PixInsight. If you want to do this completely in Photoshop, you're going to have to watch Josh's tutorial on star removal and adding stars back, because I actually do my version in PixInsight, and it's just my workflow and the way I'm more comfortable. If you only have Photoshop, then you're going to have to do it his way. But here you go. I am jumping back into PixInsight, and I'm going to actually stop and see if there are any questions out there. I'm clicking over. You use the clone stamp rather than the healing brush to get rid of star residues. Yeah, I do. And I don't know why. I'm just a little bit more comfortable with it. I feel like I have a little bit more control. Don't know why. If healing brush works better for you, you could use healing brush. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open my this is my file here, IC1396 H-alpha-O3 stars removed in PixInsight and PS. That just tells me that I removed the stars and cleaned up the nebula. I'm going to make this smaller just so I don't know, just so I have it like that. So here's the next step. I have my starless image and I have my starred image. What I need is a layer with only the stars. And the way I'm going to do that, and to make this simple, I'm clicking the wrong stuff here. Identifier. This is the image with stars. I'd usually put stars in there, but I'm just putting S. This is the image with no stars, NS. And I am going to go straight into Pixel Math and do probably the easiest pixel math equation that you've ever seen, which is stars minus no stars. And of course, it's going to create a new image and go to the RGB color space. And when I apply that, there we go. I get just the stars. And I would save that as an image called stars. Now, there's one thing I want to point out. Look at your stars. This is a star-only image. And if you see flubs in it, now keep in mind, these stars, especially the large ones, are going to be coming towards you. You kind of want them to be a little pretty. If I were taking more time, and what I did in my original animation was I actually blurred this star removed image before I did my star extraction, as I'll call it. And what that ended up doing was it just hid a lot of the details that are going to prevent these stars from looking pretty. And for some reason, it worked a little bit better. This time I'm not so unhappy with that. I don't want to really jump through hoops. It would have been kind of hard to explain as on the fly. But so basically I have my stars removed, and I have my nebula. I could add those back together and have it right in there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here. That's my stars removed TIFF. I am going to open up my stars only. I'm going to select it all and copy it, and I'm going to paste it right onto there. Well, it's black, so I have to change my blend mode. And to add stars back, you'll either use lighten or screen, or possibly a combination of the two in a group. To keep it simple, I'm just going to use screen mode. Try and make your stars pretty. If you need to stretch your star a little bit more, you can. Just try and keep them pretty. But you can do this after the fact. You can prettytize your stars after, or maybe I should say prettyitize your stars after the fact. But here you go. I have a star image and a nebula image. Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, that's not enough for me. I need something else. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to delete that star layer. We don't need that. What I really needed to do is I need to get this foreground nebula off of this image. And what I would ultimately like to have is a layer with the closest part of this nebula up front, possibly another layer with the middle part. So this elephant trunk right here appears to be closer. This region down here appears to be closer to me. Some of this dark dust may even be closer. Maybe these are a little bit farther away, this structure up here, but I'm only going to do this into 2 layers. I'm going to take the background and the foreground. If you really wanted to get advanced, if you really want to make it look crazy, you can take them into 3, 4, 5 layers and just do this over and over again. To keep it simple, I'm only going to take it into 2 layers. And I am going to quickly work my magic and show you what you have to do. I'm gonna ask an open question out here, because ever since I've never really worked with the Photoshop timeline before, and ever since I opened the timeline, my sidebar here got bigger. I don't know how to make it smaller. If anybody knows how to make it smaller, usually it's only half this size. Let me know, because this is making it tough on me. But mull over that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone stamp out my nebula. Check this out. We're going to paint that right away. What? We're just painting it right away. It might not be so pretty. I do want to preserve some of that background stuff, so let's see here. You have to give that some texture. It's okay if this is just kind of soft looking. Remember, when I do the animation, the foreground is going to cover it up. Now let me say this. I probably should have prefaced this long in advance. Let me give you a long story while I'm clone stamping this stuff out. I used to, when I first started getting into astronomy and I was getting my sky and telescopes, I'd look at an awesome picture of an extrasolar planet, right? An extrasolar planet around its sun, or around its star. And I'd be like, wow, that's great. But I knew deep down inside it was a rendering. And of course, I'm painting away this up here. I knew deep down inside it was a rendering. And I don't know, for some reason, you get all excited when you see that image, and then you find out it's a rendering, and you're kind of disappointed. You really want to see that extrasolar planet. Well, either way, long story short, I kind of disliked renderings for that reason, because they weren't scientifically accurate. Like, who knows if it actually looks like that? Then I did a rendering. And all of a sudden, I kind of came around. I said, you know what? Okay, for artistic merit, well, you know what? It's kind of cool. Well, this kind of kills all the scientific merit in our astrophotographs. You know, the stars, I make the brightest stars the foreground stars. I make the dimmest stars the background stars. who knows if that's the way it really is. In fact, we know it isn't that way, but it's the way I did it. If someone really wanted to take the initiative to find out which stars are in the foreground and which stars are in the background, they could do that. And it's not so difficult. It's actually relatively easy, and you could do it. Maybe not. You could do it with PixInsight and then getting other star maps, but it does take time. Okay, so there we go. Let me show you what we started with and where we are right now. Right there. Down to there. I've removed the foreground nebula. So, what do I need right now? Well, I need a layer with only the stuff that I removed. So how do I do that? Well, with the stars, I subtracted the stars from the starless image. I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going back to PixInsight. I'm going to close this off. I'm going to minimize this. This right here is an image that I prepared in advance. And this is an image that you just saw me working on right before I jumped back in here. And basically, I have my nebula image and my no nebula image. What I'm going to do, again, I'm going to use pixel math. But for this, and now there are probably a million ways to do this. But this is the first way I came up with, and it worked well. So I did it, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. Same thing, create new image, RGB color space. What we have is N over NN. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes, and I'm not looking at my thing. The nebula image over the no star image, or the no... Hold on, let me get this straight here. The image with nebula over the image without nebula. So let me see here. I have NS divided by NN. And when I do this, okay, that looks crazy, but that's what I want. And this is my nebula-only image. I'm going to jump down to back to Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my nebula-only image. I have my nebula-only image, I have my stars-only image, and I have my stars-removed image. I'm going to take that nebula-only image. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to put it on top of there. And I'm going to change my blending mode to multiply. Why am I multiplying? Well, because I just divided. So, hey, you get the math right. That's why I said there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and it'll probably work. One thing I'm noticing is I think I used the wrong image to reapply this to. The image that I removed the nebula from isn't the same image as this, so that's why it's going to look a little bit funky, but it's really going to turn out right. You're not gonna notice it, but you will notice that the nebula-only image had a white background. That's why it works with the multiply. This has a dark background. That's why it's gonna work with the screen mode. And you can see, there we go. I have an image with stars removed, nebula removed, in layers. Now, I did want to mention this. Dylan's going to show you something. Dylan's going to show you something in a little bit, and you don't need to do that nebula removal. Well, you don't have to remove the nebula for Dylan. He's going to show you a different way to do it. You'll only have to remove the stars. So you've seen my method for removing stars. You've also seen my method for removing nebula. One other thing that we're going to do here to kind of set ourselves up for the next step, I'm going to duplicate my star layer, and I'm going to hide everything And hold on, I want to think about something. Am I doing something wrong here? I'm sorry for thinking. No, I think I'm doing this okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paintbrush with the big hard edge and a nice big size, and I've got my top layer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it all out except for bright stars that I pick. Now, the reason I had to think about this is I did this last time, and if you remove the stars first that you're going to keep, then it kind of makes it easier to know which ones you're doing. But I've done this a few times. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up, you'll see which stars I'm keeping. Really only keeping 4 stars in the image. And I am just painting all of this black. And since I'm using screen mode, doesn't matter. It disappears. Got all that gone, got all that gone. Now, something cool, and you guys can experiment with this, a cool effect, if you leave a few stars around that particular star, it kind of looks cool. I'll leave some stars around that one right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this back up. So this is my other layer with the stars. So I can go back and forth and see what I need, what I've left and what I've kept. I am going to make my brush smaller because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe these stars out only in this layer. And I could see that I wiped it out there. You can see because they dim a little bit. And there we go. So basically, I have, let's get this all here. Those are my bright stars. Those are my dim stars. That's my nebula. That's my foreground nebula. That's my background nebula. Let me think this through. Okay, I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't think it matters which order I do this in. So let me show you. Few things to keep in mind. You're going to have to start thinking like a videographer. It's not good to have it shot vertically. You're going to probably want to do it horizontally or crop it to the horizontal, but you might not have to do that till the end. What we're going to do now is we're going to use something that none of us, or few of us, have probably used. We're going to use the video timeline, which you can find right there. Highlight timeline. Normally it's going to pop up in the middle of your screen here, but you can put it on the sidebar. I'm going to click Create Video Timeline, and what that ends up doing is it takes your layers and puts them into a timeline based on, you're going to have to experiment with this a little bit. In fact, it's really hard to explain when it's right there. This is your timeline. I click play. Well, since these are all still right now, it's not going to do much, but it's going through. But it shows you about how much time it's going to take. Shows you you're trying to render at 30 frames per second. You can change your resolution here. When you're experimenting with this, keep your resolution on 25% because you're going to render quickly. When you put it up to 50 or 100%, it takes forever. It drives you nuts. And basically, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you what you do if you don't have Photoshop CC. If you don't have Photoshop CC, when you click this right here, you're going to see this. Oh, I'm sorry. When you click this, no. When you right-click that right there, let me show you what I did. This is my layer 2 copy. No, it's not letting me do what I want to do, but you can see layer 2 copy. This is only my bright stars. When I right-click that purple area, it asks me motion, and I can pan and zoom, pan, zoom, rotate, rotate, and zoom. Using all of these options, you can have some cool effects. Let's say you just want to do a pan. It asks you your angle. By slightly changing the angles, just slightly. You can have it so that the stars appear to be a little bit more 3D, but you're going to experiment with this a little bit, and you're going to find that you're limited because you have to pan. It just doesn't give you many pan options. Well, what Photoshop CC does is it allows you to transform these layers. And it allows you to transform them throughout the actual video. What you first have to do is you first have to convert your layer to a smart object. And we're going to do this with all of our layers. We don't have to do it with our background, but I'm going to do it with our background just so I could show you something else. Okay, so these are all converted to smart layers. When I do right click it, I still get that no motion thing, but when I click this, I see this, which is transform. This is the magic that allows me to do this. First of all, you see this. This is your timeline right here. This can be dragged across here with some delay, but for the most part, you can drag it. Oh, I still have that layer set on pan. That's why it's taking so much time. Or do I? What the heck is going on here? Do I have that? It says no motion. Why was that moving? Hold on. There's something going on here. It says no motion. It's not supposed to be panning. Why is it doing that? I'm sorry. Huh. Maybe let me go back to the history and step back and see. There's nothing in history that would imply it's going to do that. Let's see here. Okay, I'm sorry. There's something going on with that layer. Let's see what's going on with that layer. There we go. I see what I did. Okay, I modified the motion back then. Okay. So I created the video timeline. I have to reconvert these to smart objects because I had to step back a bit. Sorry about that. You know how these things go. We're actually getting there. We're getting very close. Convert to smart object. Unlock. Convert to smart object. We are here. Okay. Now, I'm going to make this animation small, just for a second, because these foreground stars, okay, so I'm stepping backwards. You can see that now we have the transform option in here. I have this slider set all the way to the beginning. I'm going to click this transform right there. That right there is the first transform point, so it's set that it tells me that we're not transforming the layer. And just to, let's see, that transform point is set. So I drag this to the end, and I hit Control-T because I'm going to retransform it. And what I end up doing is I just want to grow my star layer. You do not have to be precise. You do not really have to pay much attention. But what I will say is you want to make your closest star layer the biggest, and to give it that effect of stars, kind of going towards the stars, take a nice big central star and make sure that it kind of goes out of the frame. You'll see that the frame isn't centered on the image, so if you do it that way, you're going to want to make sure that most of your frames tend to have that same centering. So there I'm going to hit Enter and save that transform. And just to show you what's happened and to make sure I did it right, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to drag this back. I'm going to render on the fly at 25%, and you're going to see those stars are flying towards us. It's doing what I want to do, so I'm going to move back. I'm going to go to my second layer. I'm going to do another transform starting at the beginning. We've got the transform set because it automatically sets the transform right there. I'm going to drag this out. You're going to see those large stars coming towards us. I'm going to hit Control T because we're doing the same thing with this layer, and I'm going to do something like that. You don't have to be so precise. What you do want is you want this layer to be a little bit smaller. Actually, I think something like that will probably look good. You want this transformation, I should say, to be a little bit smaller than the first. So I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to get that transformation in there. I'm going to make this bigger. Going to see how my stars are flying, literally. And you can see, because the layers don't line up, it actually moves a little bit more. But that, in my mind, gives a bit more of a 3D effect. And you can see it is still rendering. That's why it's not so smooth. But foreground stars coming at us faster. Background stars, just kind of doing that. In the very end, you can slow this up and all that. But I kind of like the way that looks. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to move this back here. I am going to go down to my nebula only layer. Same exact step. Transform. Starting right there. Bring it to the end. Control T for transforming this layer. Make this just a little bit bigger. Now this one, I kind of would favor centering these pretty much on the object. We'll see how it looks when we do it. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Let's exaggerate it. Again, video's forgiving. You have to keep reminding yourselves that, but you also have to go back and check it. I'm going to lock in that transformation. I am going to bring this back here, and I'm going to make this bigger, and I'm going to play, and look what's happening. Again, it's rendering, so it's going to go slowly, but the nebula is coming off. So the stars, foreground stars are moving the fastest. Background stars are moving a little bit slower. Foreground nebula is moving a little bit slower, and background motion is pretty much still. Background nebula is pretty much still. Pretty much the only last step you would do here is you're going to drag this back. You're going to take that bottom layer, that background layer. Have I converted that to a smart object? No, it was a smart object. I'm sorry. Drop it down. Transforms. Beginning transform is set. Control T. And I'm going to make it just a tad bit bigger. Just a tad bit bigger, because I just want a little bit of motion. I want a little bit of kind of pixel jiggly, because I want to, every step of the way, I just want to add that feeling of depth. And that's what it does. You guys are going to have to learn your way around the timeline. You really start to learn it around. There you've got the gist. And right now I've got it animated. We're going to wait for it to render. It is rendered right now. Oh, no, I made it bigger. Okay, hold on. Almost rendered. There we go, fully rendered. And you can see we're flying into that nebula. Now, I kind of banged this out. You saw the way that I did it. I banged this out quickly, and I could go back in and make it more precise. I could do different star layers. I could slow it down. I could make it faster. Oh, look at this. Ooh, what just happened there? I don't know. You will see. Remember I said I screwed up because I took the wrong nebula off the other image? Look down here. This nebula exists down here. If I hadn't done this over and over again 5 times in preparation for this, I would have done it in one sitting and had it all right. But because I had a bunch of different versions, I screwed that up. Those are the things you're not going to want to do. But look at the way these really float off there. I mean, it gives it a great look, gives it a 3D look. With animations, you can rotate. Oh, is it going to give me? Is it going to rotate just the layer? Nope. Rotated every. Nope. Did that do that right? No, I think it just rotated a layer. Yeah, I can't do it that way. I have to highlight everything. Let's do history. But either way, that's basically it. That's the gist of it. When I go through and I spend a lot of time paying attention to what I'm doing, Oh my goodness, did my mouse just die? Hold on, I've been having mouse problems. There we
That
go.
looks really awesome, Adam. The final result is just spectacular.
Yeah, it really, it's not so difficult for what we do, for kind of how technical what we do is. Just takes a little bit of time. And this right here, can I drag that off? This right here is my finished version in 1080p. And when I pay attention, and oh, it's not rendered. Let me make it. We'll see how quickly this thing renders. This is going to take a while.
I'm going to call out a couple of questions we've got in the Q&A just while
Go right ahead.
Presentation. Sean Harrison asked, would it be beneficial to make things easier to use PI star mask at different sizes to make masks for different size brightness stars to give it that more depth, I suppose?
So it's gonna sound funny, but I'm gonna say yes and no. More favoring no, because now first of all, are you saying is it better to more accurately remove your stars? Yes. You'll notice some star residue here, and I'd like to. And if you want to, I'm not saying don't be more precise when you're removing your stars. That said, I think that it gives it more depth if there are some residuals. I think it makes it look more natural. Remember now if I would have screwed it up, if I would have left large stars in the background, I think it would look unnatural. But since I only left small stars in the background, I think it kind of helps what I'm doing. Oh man, this is going to take forever to render.
The other question was, could you have used a range mask in PixInsight to select the dark nebula and make a mask for that removal step?
Select a range mask in PixInsight to remove the dark nebula. You're probably use it. So rather than dividing, as opposed to dividing, I'm trying to think of how I would do it with a range mask. I'd probably use the range mask, but still end up dividing, and I don't think it would do anything because I've literally removed the nebula using a paintbrush from the image that I'm dividing the other image out of, so I'm literally getting everything I want. So I don't know if I can't see any benefit in using a range mask to protect it, unless the questioner is coming at it a different way. In which case, yes, there are a million ways to do this. It's just kind of the way that I did it. There you go. I'm rendered, and you can see how this is coming forward towards us. You guys probably can't tell. I had to render it at 25%, but I don't know. When you spend some time in it, you can really do some cool things. Dylan's going to show us a different technique, and then I'm going to kind of and then we'll just kind of chat in general about all this stuff. And I'm jumping right back in. If there are any questions in the meantime, I'll see them and I'll try and answer them after Dylan gets through.
All right.
Let me get my screen back and then hand it over to Dylan's screen. Well, I can hand it over to Dylan right now. There we go, Dylan. You're in charge.
Cool. Can you see my Photoshop screen with the layers on the right-hand side?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm doing pretty much a poor man's version of what Adam just did. Adam saw one of my 3D images and sort of took it to the next level, I guess conceptually, and thought, how could I turn this into a video? And he's done this really amazing process to get that 3D effect for anyone who can't do the stereoscopic stuff. Now the stereoscopic stuff, I'll just show you. Here's the one I did with the Carina Nebula. Now to actually do these, you need to be one of those people who can go cross-eyed and see the nebula as one image. So you cross your eyes until they become an image in the middle and you focus on that one. Some people can do it, some people can't. I'm not a geneticist. I don't know if it's a 50-50 split with the population.
Dylan, we are still seeing your elephant, or excuse me, your what is that? The Rosette Nebula?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. Here we go. I'll try entire screen. How about now?
Yep, we got it. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So that's this is the end result of what I'll be showing you. It's a left-right stereoscopic 3D image. So if you can go cross-eyed, you will be able to combine these as an image in the middle and see it really pop out as a kind of 3D object. the history of stereoscopic vision in astrophotography and in what NASA does is pretty rich, because even when they have the Mars rovers on Mars, you'll notice that the Mars rovers have like little eyes. They look like two cameras side by side, so that when they do take an image of the landscape, they can judge in 3D, and the technicians back on Earth can actually look at Mars in 3D, so they can see whether that rock that they're seeing is like just a small rock way up close to the camera, or a large rock further away. This process, just like Adam was saying, is going to be a little more art than science. We do know a good deal of information from spectroscopy and redshift about the distance of the stars, but we don't have a complete map for our Milky Way galaxy. They are working on a complete map through the Gaia mission, which the European Space Agency is doing. So there is a satellite out there right now trying to measure all that data. So you can do this with proper volumetric data, but we're just going to do it the creative way today. So what you're going to need to start is a finished image. This is not the greatest image. It was only like an hour and a half's worth of data, but I chose this particular nebula because it's going to look really nice in 3D, because I think I can turn it into a kind of well, like you're looking down the mouth of a volcano sort of thing. And also the stars are mostly pretty small to medium sized. We don't have any big unmanageable ones like Alnitak in the Horsehead or anything like that. So you're gonna start with your finished nebular image. We're also going to need a starless one. Now Adam's already gone through that process. There are so many different ways to do this. I just used the technique from JP Metsaviano, and you should check out his website if you don't know him already. He is the expert at this sort of 3D nebula photography and 3D nebula work, and he does this faux 3D process, but he also does the proper volumetric ones as well. So you have your starless image, you've got your final image with the stars, and you have a luminance map, or what I'm going to call a luminance map. Essentially, I've just converted the starless image to grayscale. So the first thing we're going to do to get our stereoscopic pairs in the end is we're going to dupe this final image, duplicate. We're going to call it star field, because this is the one we're going to use to get back just the stars. We are going to save this, and then we are going to use Photoshop itself, not PI, Pixel Math, which is an excellent way as well. But we're going to go image, hang on the Starfield image, yep, image, adjustments, image apply image. There we go. And we're going to subtract. We're going to subtract our starless nebula. So the drop down there becomes the starless nebula, and we're going to subtract that, and we should just end up with a star field. No, we don't. What's going on? Got my star field. Oh, maybe I haven't flattened this. Hang on a sec. Let me flatten the image first. That will work a lot better. Image, apply image. The source will be the starless, and we're going to subtract. There we go. Now we've got a nice star field here. We'll save that. Adam's version is a lot nicer than this, but this will do for what we want to do. We're going to convert this to 8-bit because things aren't going to work properly if we don't. Now with our luminance map layer, the grayscale layer, just to make, this is how we're going to get the 3D shape of the nebula. And just to give you an idea of what we're going for, if you couldn't do the 3D effect before, I'll just show you what I mean. This is the animated version where we're seeing the left and right bouncing back and forth. And that shows you've got some depth in these areas. Now all of this depth comes from this luminance layer. We're actually going to tell Photoshop to use that brightness as whether it's going to be right up high towards you or way back in the distance. Okay, so to make it nice and smooth, we're going to blur this out, and by about 2 pixels should be enough. So blur that out and save it so it's nice and smooth. Now this one has to be 8-bit as well to work. Save that. And I think it also has to be a PSD for this effect to work. So I'm going to call it lumap.psd. There we go. Now we're going to go to our starless image. This is going to be the one we end up using as our right-hand side. So depending on how you work, I'm going to start putting them left and right so we can actually see the left and right images. And for me, because I can do the cross-eye thing, I can actually, as I go, I can cross my eyes and see what's happening. But you get a pretty good idea of what's going on anyway. So we're going to displace this nebula here using that luminance field. So we're going to go, I think this has to be 8-bit as well. Yep. I'm going to use filter, distort, displace. And we're going to do nothing on the vertical scale. We want it to go left and right to get that 3D effect. You might want to play with the horizontal scale to see how much it gets displaced, and the rest should be fine, and it should prompt us to load up that PSD luminance map that we saved before. Do that, and you'll see there, it, if I undo, you'll see it moving. It's kind of a cool little effect that you can get out of just straight Photoshop, and it does actually give a nice 3D effect to things. So after that, we're going to grab the star field from before. We're going to take that and paste it back into our working frame here. And as before, we're going to use screen just because that's nice and simple. And already, if you can do the 3D effect with your cross-eyed vision, already this has the 3D depth to that nebula. But to give it a bit more punch, I'm going to do a similar sort of thing to what Adam did, and I'm just going to pick out some of these nice brighter stars, and I'm just going to grab them because they've just got black backgrounds, most of these anyway. Grab some of these bright ones. And really the trick with this 3D artistry stuff is that the small dim stars are going to be backwards, they're going to be away from you, and the bright ones are going to be closer towards you, so it gives that sense of depth. So I'm just going to remove those with cut, for me Apple X, and Control X, and paste them back in. Oops, and set back to screen. There they are again. Now, to get that depth, I'm going to use V and just hold down Shift and just see how I'm moving them to the left and right. I'm just going to move them to the right, because if I move them to the right, they'll appear to be coming closer towards you. And in fact, I could take that whole star layer from before and move that a little bit to the left, and that would give a little sense of depth there as well. Now, another thing I'd like to do on this particular object is just take these stars, which are quite bright, but they're kind of feature stars in this well here. So I'm going to just grab these off, and I'm going to cut them out, paste them back in, put them back where they were, roughly. Screen. And I'm just using my cross-eye vision to see where they're meant to go. All right. That's where they were, and I'm just going to send them a bit to the left, because if I send them left, they're actually going to go back down the well, and I really like that effect. And one last thing I'm going to do to this image is, because of the luminance layer, all of this bright stuff goes, well, in this particular way that I've done it, all this bright stuff is going down, so it's like I'm looking down the volcano. because it's a bit darker here, this sort of pops up again, almost like a donut, which only has this part of the hole and then a smaller hole inside, which is coming back up towards you. So if you like, you could do something like use your liquify and just go in and take this whole bunch and just sort of push it a little bit to the left that way. You can do that with the rest of it as well, and just give it a little nudge to the left, and then in your 3D image it'll actually look like it's just sitting back a little bit further. So now I've got the well really nice and deep, and those little feature stars sitting inside the well. At this point you can do whatever you want with your two images. I like the left and right stereoscope images, or stereogram, but you could also animate them. So using the timeline like Adam showed you before, you could then just flick them left and right really quickly. You'd need the better version of Photoshop to do a smooth transform, which would be nice as well to do a transform between them. You could even convert this to grayscale and then use the instructions which you can get off NASA's 3D site to do a red-blue anaglyph as well. So you can use the 3D glasses, red-blue glasses. Or if you wanted to, you could go back and with that displace method, just go 1 pixel at a time on each step and turn this into a series of video frames as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Unless there's any questions, this is the poor man's version of the way Adam was doing things. A different kind of thing as well, because you end up with a 3D image. But they're really popular because you just don't see them. We see a lot of astrophotos out there, but whenever I post a 3D one, people who can do the 3D stuff just say, yeah, I want to see more of this stuff. So it's a fun little process to do, and especially if you're sitting around on a cloudy night and you've got bunches of finished astrophotos, this is a nice little thing you can do at the end. Any questions?
Thanks, Dylan. Guys, ask your questions now. That really is cool. I watched the last half of your presentation cross-eyed, but that really is. I'm glad you brought up JP Mezzavino, JP Mezzavino, because he does pretty much the combination of what I do and what you do. He does an animation where you go in with what appears to be a displacement. I don't know if he does a displacement or if he actually I have no idea how he does it. I might have to.
The process he posted on his site, I saw he used the displacement. It's pretty much exactly what I just did there. Was his faux process, but I know he does the proper volumetric stuff, and I've seen other tutorials online that use Photoshop's 3D extrude tools to use that luminance map as well. So there's all sorts of different ways to do it, but yeah, that's the general gist of it.
Well, he actually did a fly-through of the Veil Nebula, which is like insane. Like you fly through the nebula, then you turn around and come back, and then I don't know. That's amazing. Then he does one with the bubble, where the bubble kind of rotates, and you should check out his stuff. I have to give credit to him and Dylan for kind of putting this stuff in front of me and saying, "Hey, I want to try that." I also have to thank my son, because if he hadn't slapped that kid in school and got himself grounded, I never would have had any computer time. And I got 4 spare hours, so it was nice. But yeah, I think there's pretty cool techniques here. You see this stuff on Discovery Channel, and you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, I guess the other thing to remember with the 3D view is that it's not something that we could even simulate with 2 satellites in space. You would have to have a pretty big head with an eye in 2 different galaxies to get the kind of views we're getting on some of this stuff. But the effect is cool. It kind of gives a nice little appreciation from the general public when they see these things and go, oh, these are actually 3-dimensional objects. So yeah.
I've always wondered that, like what kind of distances you would need to get the actual parallax on the even on closer nebula. But I don't know, 5,000 light years away. Is a solar system enough? I don't know. Cool stuff to think about, though. And what a week for stuff like that to think about with gravity waves and all that. I just found out that my family friend, or my best family friend forever, he married a girl. Her brother is working on the LIGO up in California.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so yeah, he was on MSNBC the other day. So it was pretty cool. I've never chatted with him, but now I really want to.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. But that's basically all we've got. I'm going to do a run around, check the comments. I don't see anything else. I don't have anything scheduled for next week yet. As always, it'll go in midweek. I think Google changed something about the way the invites go out, and I don't know if everyone got the invite as it was supposed to come this week. I know I didn't get many RSVPs, but I do see people here in the room, so somebody must have gotten it. But I'm going to be working on that. If you don't see something posted midweek, though, let me know or check in on me. I literally only had 4 RSVPs this morning. That's how I knew something was wrong. Usually I have 40, so. But that's basically it. Unless anyone in the room has anything to bring up. If not, then I'm going to say good night, and I hope your skies are clearer than mine.